From Toronto, this is JWeekly Canada, starring Eden Wall and Susan Minuk. From Studio 18, here is Susan Minuk.
Welcome, Sandra. So good to have you here.
Nice
Sandy.
to be here.
I'll call you Sandy. How's that?
Perfect.
So we've got your book, this beautiful memoir, Bold Decisions. Love the title. Memoirs of a judge, lawyer, teacher, and working mom. What an insightful book. And it's written with such heart.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. So I want to talk about that. Let's go back to 1973 when you were a mom to 4 young children. I guess your youngest was 3, your oldest was 9, and you decided that you wanted to go to law school. So my question is, why law school and why then?
I always thought that I might want to be a lawyer. And I'm not sure why, because I didn't have a role model. I could only think of Perry Mason, and I could only think that I wanted to help people with their disputes, because I was sort of a mentor to others. And so I put it on the back burner after I met Jerry, and he had to go through medical school, and I became a teacher. And then I heard you had to write the LSAT. And I had the 4 children at those ages. And so it was a family decision if I should try it out. You know, try it out. You do it on their terms. But anyway, I did. And once I got in, I knew it was where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do.
Well, good for you, because, I mean, even now, you know, several years later, working moms still we struggle, right, with the idea of working and raising our family. And back then, you know, that was probably not the norm. And look at you, you really set the pace. And I think you even address in the book the guilt, the mother guilt.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like, how did you balance that? How were we able to, you know, like you said, you've read the articles, you knew that it's a science, that you can do this, but how did you do it?
Well, I'm thinking about that. I would say that there were 4 things that helped that. The first was, and it's never easy, it's never 100% perfect,
Right.
but the first thing was Jerry and I were able to coordinate our times off with the children's holiday time. So during summers, during holiday time for the children, we would go away. And we had what do you call it? Not a SUV anymore, but to take us around. We went through Canada. We went close to places we didn't have a lot of money that we could drive to as a family. And that was the first thing. We went to Buffalo, we went to Niagara Falls, we stayed at the Marriott, and I think that brought us a closeness as a family. Because in a way, when you're working and when the kids are all running in different directions,
Right.
that doesn't happen as much. And finally, I learned things on the way, how to be present, how to be in the moment, how to practice unconditional love when it was needed, how to choose your battles, and as a mother, and later as a grandmother, zip the lips, that kind of thing.
Sandy, you say stay in the moment. Let's talk about that. How does one stay in the moment?
Well, actually, I talk about that in the book. That you stop thinking about yourself and what you have to do, what you did yesterday, what you did doing today, what you're doing tomorrow, and you focus your mind on where you are and who you're with, and you ask the kids, how are you really feeling? What happened in school today? What you have a friend Noah, have you seen him recently? And you're with them in a different way, in a mindset.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so how would you say your Jewish values have shaped your journey along the way?
Oh, very much so. I think I mentioned that I tell the story when I was 6 years old and consecrated a Holy Blossom temple, and we got a little Torah, and the rabbi, how do I say it? Blessed us as a group.
Yes.
I came home and I said, "Mommy, mommy, 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 mommy," because she was looking after our brother at the time. I was at the temple, and the rabbi blessed me like I was the only one. He blessed the whole class, and he blessed the whole congregation. But in my heart, I felt it was only for me. And that was when I was 6. Now, I met Jerry. We still belonged to Holy Blossom. We were members and still are, the two of us. We used to have a whole pew in the temple. We saved it for all the kids as they grew. But now it's just us. But what's important was the heritage, the culture, the identity of our family. And more important, I think, is the tenets of Judaism, the tenets of kindness and generosity and forgiveness and for love. And that's passed on through the generations.
Sandy, I want to ask, what do you hope that readers will take away from your memoir in terms of understanding the judicial system and the roles that judges play in our society?
A lot. I think I'd start off, and this is half the book, me as a judge, to say that I wonder why so many lawyers want to be judges. It's a daunting task, and it is a daunting task. And I don't know if the public appreciates the work that goes into it, the angst that goes into it, the sleepless nights when you've seen a 2-year-old with boils on her body, burned in the tub. And I think as a rule, there is a degree of respect and should be. And there's also the criticism on the other side. But I would like them to take away the good things.
I'm very proud of you and all your achievements. Congratulations.
Thank you, and I'm proud of you.
You're watching Canadian Jewish Television. My name is Susan Minuk. We'll be right back.
Making his television debut, here is guest host Joseph Offenberg.
In the studio, we have with us now fashion designer, empathy activist, and social entrepreneur Kim Smiley. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. You're so well known in the community at large. I mean, you're known abroad, you're known in Canada. You're so involved as a fashion designer, activist. Tell us about what you're doing lately in fashion design.
So in fashion design, I have a jewelry company. That is my name, Kim Smiley. The jewelry is very unique because it is not made out of metal. It's actually made out of lace that's hand sewn. And what separates my company apart, I think, and what makes it most interesting is that I hire Syrian refugees to sew it by hand. So we provide employment opportunities for marginalized women. And as well, we pay a living wage of $22 an hour in Toronto. And so I'm really proud of that. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. I learned of the whole living wage movement while I was a graduate student at Harvard. And it's something that really stuck with me. And it's something that I'm really proud to incorporate into my business.
Well, that is so impressive and so welcoming. What struck you to start using lace? What was the initial impetus for using lace?
So after graduate school, I did a research fellowship in Japan, and it was there that I discovered this incredible metallic lace that is now the canvas for my jewelry. But when I first discovered it, I started using it in my mixed media paintings. And I'm a mixed media artist, self-taught. And I did a series of paintings using this metallic lace. I also did a katuba for a friend using the lace. And one day I just had an epiphany while I was looking at my paintings, and I thought that these would be more beautiful on a woman's body than on a wall. And I started experimenting. I'm not a seamstress by any means, but I started experimenting. I made a simple bracelet with the lace, and the rest is kind of history. It just organically formed from that experimentation.
And I see you're wearing it today, and
Yes.
it's so beautiful.
Thank
and so
you.
proud, and both the design and the clothing as well.
Yes. It's the material that I love weaving into everything. So I created this caftan as well. I don't sell the clothing, but I do love experimenting just as an artist with different things in fashion. So the jewelry is really unique too, Yossi, in that it is it's very lightweight. So feel it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really late. And I use magnets because I'm always very aware of empathy in whatever I do. And a lot of women find it hard because of dexterity issues or arthritis, or they don't have anyone to help them put their jewelry on. So it was actually my dad's idea, a fellow empath, and he said, use magnets because that makes it really easy to put it on. And so everything I make is with magnets.
You know, I love the fact that it's so focused on lace because it has a very strong Judaic history to it as well. If you're aware, in the book of Exodus or Shmot, in the Torah, in the Bible, there's a passage, I believe in Shmot chapter 38, where they actually talk about, where they're talking about the Kohanim or the priests. The vestments, the garments that they're wearing are made of lace. And they talk about they're not just ornate and decorative and beautiful, but at the same time they're very strong, because they call it the ties that bind in this text. And as you know, ties that bind need to be very strong because they need to anchor on both sides. So at the same time they're light, easy to wear, and at the same time they're very strong.
Yes.
Is that analogous in any way to your company or the people who work with you or the mission statement of your organization?
I love that you're teaching me some Jewish knowledge here because I'm very into that. And I didn't know that, what you just shared with me, so I'll be incorporating that. I'll quote you.
Please.
But yes, absolutely, because I think that one of the things that I like to talk about is that looks can be very deceiving. Okay. So although lace looks very feminine and fragile, it's actually incredibly strong, as this text illustrates. And my jewelry is the same. It looks really feminine, and everyone always says, oh, do I have to be really careful with it? And the idea is no, because lace is a very, very strong fabric because of the way that it's cross-stitched, right, to create it. So absolutely, that would be a good analogy for my company too.
For sure, because it's so empowering to wear it for that duality. And I can't miss the mention that you made about being empathetic for people who put it on and using magnets. And that's a great segue for your whole other area that you're known of expertise in terms of the empathy effect. I mean, it's gone viral. It's taken off, and I want to ask you all about it. But before, I just have some questions personally on empathy. Do you think empathy is something that's organic, it's innate, it's intuitive, and that we all have it and we use it? Or do you think it's something that we have to aspire to, maybe cultivate and work? I personally don't think I wasn't born innate. I think it's something I've had to work on in my life. And basically almost like a muscle, had to create that. And I'm very glad I have, because I think it makes me a much better listener, a much better friend, because I can be more empathetic. But what do you think? Do you think is it something more organic, innate, or do you think it's something we have to work on, or both?
So I think both. I think some people are born extremely empathetic. Those people are called empaths. But I think some people are not necessarily born with a lot of empathy. But like you were saying, just like a muscle, we can develop it. So you can practice being empathetic. And one of the things that I am going to strive to do with my life is to help people become more empathetic through different ways and different platforms. So I have a podcast that's coming out in the fall called Empathy Empire. And to me, one of the best ways for people to learn about empathy is to be inspired by people who are really paragons of empathy. So what I'm doing with this podcast is I'm interviewing people who are highly inspirational in terms of the way they show up in terms of their empathetic character to the world. And I'm interviewing who I think are some of the most empathetic people that I've ever met in my career, because I worked for 13 years in the nonprofit sector. And I'm going to put them on a platform to just speak and to dialogue with me about empathy and the work that they do. So that's one of the things that to me is very infectious, to be inspired by people doing incredible work that's based on self-compassion and sharing their compassion with the world. The other thing that I'm doing, which I'm really excited about and I'm launching in the fall as well, is I've created something called the empathy game. And one of the ways that I teach empathy is through the imagination. There's nothing more important than the imagination in terms of learning about empathy. Albert Einstein even said that empathy is more important than knowledge, or rather that imagination is more important than knowledge. So in this empathy game that I've created, you use your imagination in order to build your empathy skills. And anyone can learn how to be an empath except a sociopath. Those are the only people who can't learn how to be empathetic, but anyone else can learn it, even if they start with not a big reservoir of empathy.
Right.
If they practice, and my goal is to create a game that allows them to practice through different scenarios and by putting themselves in other people's shoes.
Wow. So Kim, this has been so fascinating and interesting. If people want to learn more about what you're doing and your creations and your empathy project, where can they learn more?
Just kimsmiley.com.
It's all there.
It's all there, or they can follow me on Instagram. It's at Kim Smiley is my handle on Instagram. It's all there, and I will be keeping people updated on the empathy game that I'm going to launch and all my other projects. But kimsmiley.com would be the place.
Right, because I know you have a huge following. It's just going to, increase after this.
Thank you so much.
It's been great having you here, Kim.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, a pleasure. You're watching Canadian Jewish Television, and we'll be right back.
Stay right where you are, because after the break, Eden shares his poetry film called God Remembered.
My first guest has just launched his new book of poetry and proverbs Saturday right here in Toronto at the Shangri-La. His book, entitled The Wisdom of Wall, is quickly racking up stellar reviews from literary critics in all corners of the globe. Just a few days ago, iconic filmmaker Robert Lantos said, "After Leonard Cohen passed, we lost our troubadour, but Eden's poetry gives me hope that a new troubadour is born." You're not shy when it comes to talking about God, but I noticed that God, the spelling of God, has the O omitted. I'm wondering if that was done, what the intent of that was. Was it to talk about maybe the irony of how it's taboo to talk about God in some
that's
instances?
a question. Hey, I wasn't expecting that, but that's a great question, because a lot of people ask me, why did you put the hyphen and you not spell God the word God in its entirety? They think it's some kind of Jewish superstition. And nothing could be further from the truth, Val. It's not let me set the record straight here on how. So the story is set straight. Why the hyphen? Why did Jews hyphenate the word God? It's not a superstition. We do it purely out of reverence. There's a big difference between superstition and reverence, as you know. Now, because we cannot understand the notion of God, right, in his or her or in its entirety, how can we be so bold and audacious and presumptuous to spell his name in its entirety?
I remember when I was designing you and speaking life into all that you will do, dropping you like puppets onto a stage of illusion with strings that tied you back to what is true. I remember when I was shaping you. In my very own image, I stared at you. For I am God, but I smile, and I sigh, and I cry, too. I made sure you carried the knowledge of me, to hear, to touch, to smell, to feel, and then to see. I remember when I was blessing you, caressing you, and dressing you, and I became tearful at once, though one day I would have to test you. And the pain I felt, knowing that you would question my love, wondering if you had the strength to rise above, while calling me a vanquished king who didn't care for the precious children that I prepared to breathe the special air that blows down there, combing through every strand of your hair, and the buds on your tongue that would let you taste with only the light of my eye on your face. My child, before you grew in your mother's womb, you had my grace. My child, you had my grace. I remember when I created your body, your mind, your heart, your blood, your bones. I did it all alone. No applause to ring in your inception, just my pain knowing that at the first sign of infection you would question my design and call it natural selection. And you would say, what kind of God creates suffering? Anybody who calls his name surely must be bluffing. I created you to be loyal and to deceive, to doubt and to believe, to lose and to retrieve, to go straight and to weave, to say give me or to say please. Don't you see? There's no you, there is only me. I remember when I was saying goodbye, sending you to breathe away from me, I could only cry. But I rejoiced knowing that you would die, and once again I would have you back in my arms, and you would share your stories with me. Your heartaches, your biggest mistakes, your lofty dreams, the lessons you gleaned, the joy you felt, what made you melt, your pain and your anguish from the cards you were dealt. My listening ear would be heartfelt. And the love you lost will be renewed, and all that grew idle will turn sublime, and you will know that I am God, for I am yours and you are mine.
Yeah, Eden's poem, God Remembered, it takes cojones to assume the voice of God and speak in it with conviction. Is not something that I can remember anyone else, any other poem doing with, other than Leonard Cohen, who has done it several times. And it's tricky territory, speaking in the voice of God, and in God Remembered, Eden pulls it off quite majestically. And because the dangerous line that one wouldn't want to cross in a poem taking on such a voice is that line between symbolism and presumption.
So what did you guys think of the poetry film?
Like I said, it was really great. I think the graphics were beautiful. The poetry itself was very nice. I'm not much of an expert on poetry, but yeah, that's kind of what I have to say.
And yourself?
Yeah, I really liked it also. It really spoke to me because I believe in God and I'm Jewish, as well as my friends here. So it really spoke out to me, and it's really relatable.
Amazing. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I also thought it was very relatable, like because we are Jewish, and yeah, I really liked it.